video the whole time.
Really?
Hello.
Lies. Okay. Hi, everybody.
Good afternoon. Happy hump day. Hump day, right? Yes.
Let me find us here and share us all over the place. All right. Cool. Okay, I think I've got us shared.
Cool.
All right. Oh, I gotta turn comments on. I'm a little slow. We just got back from the lake and I feel like taking a nap.
I would have taken a nap, dude.
It's like 109 out there. Lovely.
Oh, I'm sure.
Lovely while there were no people. We left when the people showed up, but
Does it get pretty packed out there during the like these? I guess so, right? Because it's summer, kids are still out of school.
I mean, it's not bad during the week. Probably in the afternoon, it gets pretty packed, but we've been able to keep a really good distance, for the most part. There are a couple of spots where it's easier to get your car. We have a small SUV, so we can go on the dirt road, which gives us a little bit more opportunity to get away from people. But there's like a paved road that leads all the way to the waterway, and that section gets really packed because anybody who comes in like a regular car and doesn't want to, off-road it,
Yeah.
that area. And there's been a lot of boats and jet skis out.
Yeah. Well, it is the time, so why not?
Yeah, totally. But we stay away on the weekends because I'm sure it's crazy.
Yeah.
And we see the evidence of it with people leaving their trash. Pick up your trash.
I know that's bad. I've seen a few posts where,
Dude,
what is up with that? Or
you're
do
so-
we just need more trash bins out there? Or, well, there's dumpsters as you leave. I know that.
Yeah, just bring a grocery bag and put your shit in the grocery bag.
Yeah. I know that's like the biggest pet peeve. Oh
Yeah,
my God. People are filthy.
yeah. So like after Memorial Day, it was pretty bad. Uh, so
Mhm. Yeah, I have to say, like, that's one thing that I don't appreciate about some of the lakes here.
yeah, yeah. I don't really understand that. It's not like it's hard. If you packed a bunch of stuff to bring out there with you, you can put all of it back in a bag and put it back in your car.
Totally. Absolutely. It's like it's only it's not even hours by the time you get home to throw it away either.
Yeah,
So
yeah. There's really no excuse for it. It's laziness.
yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
But anyway, so that's what I did. So,
Nice.
and now, actually, this is funny. Now we're going to talk about. So, the topic that we chose today was hustle culture. I did the opposite of hustle today because I sat in a floaty in the lake all morning long.
I cleaned a sliding door that did not want to be cleaned. It was, yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah. Uh, the whole having to clean sliding doors in Arizona is real, by the way. So I want to share a quick story because if anybody's interested in flipping, you need to know this. I learned this the hard way. We were in the middle of a flip and we got a really bad rainstorm, which doesn't happen like often in Phoenix, right? And it's
Yeah.
not one that lasts for hours, but this was one of those where we just had a downpour for like hours. And we had a partner on this flip and he had gone to check on it and he called us and he's like, you guys, the kitchen is getting flooded and it looks like it's coming in from the sliding glass door and I can't figure out what's going on. So we went over there and water is just it's just coming in from the sliding glass door, and we're trying to sop up with towels and stuff enough of the water to see if we can figure out where the water is getting in.
Ugh.
Like, it didn't make any sense. I'm like, it's just coming in the sliding glass door. Where in the heck is it coming from? Like, is there a gap that we don't know about underneath? Like, and so we're looking around and we can't figure it out. And actually, I think we called Henrik.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I can't figure out where it's coming from. And Henrik was very helpful and said, well, there's these little holes in your sliding glass door that are supposed to help with drainage. And if they're plugged full of dirt, they're going to push the water the other way, which is inside the house. And I didn't realize that this happens frequently in Arizona, because if there's one thing that we have an abundance of in Arizona, it's dirt.
Yeah.
And it blows all over, and it builds up. And any of you who live here and try to dust your house and see that 5 minutes later it looks like you didn't do anything, the dirt problem in Arizona. So lo and behold, Henrik was right. He told us exactly where to look for the little drain holes. And sure enough, they were caked completely full at this point now of mud, because
oh my God,
the water.
So gross.
It was so bad. And so Daniel had to put on a trash bag like a poncho and go outside in the rain. And one of us is inside and one of us is outside, and we're cleaning the little holes. And when we finally got all the mud and the muck and the crap out, guess what? All the water drained out the way that it was supposed to.
I don't know. Isn't that funny? Like, so clean your stupid doors, filthy people.
Right.
It is, yeah. But you would never know. Yeah.
No idea that this was a thing. And
I know
that this house too was not the cleanest house that we ever bought. In fact, we had to run the ozone machine in that place for days because they were smokers. So another thing that they never, ever did was clean the track to the sliding glass door.
Yeah. That is probably one of the grossest things. That and the showers, the sliding shower doors makes me gag. I'm like, and granted, we don't get the cleanest of properties anyways. They're usually pretty bad.
Yeah.
But oh my God, I can't. I can't. And today I looked down and I'm looking at the track and I'm thinking, we're gonna switch out the door anyways, but for pictures, obviously, we want for it to look clean.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's always something. And it's also because our water's so nasty, our water in Arizona is gross.
Yes.
Tons of calcium in it.
Yeah.
So if somebody does not, or sort of cleans it with water, it's not really cleaning it. And then the fact that they never cleaned it, and like Lisa says, we get these storms every once in a while, and with the dirt and the heat, and so there's all these spots everywhere, and I'm like, forget it. I'm like, this is where Photoshop comes into play,
right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so clean your sliding glass door track. Thank me later.
Yep, absolutely.
Get them on Toon season this year. You'll probably thank me. It's pretty easy to do if you have a shop vac.
Yeah.
Because you really don't realize how much dirt is in there. Also, I'll give you a second pro tip. Black Friday, they always run specials at Home Depot for, usually shop vacs are on that list. It's all kinds of like smaller things. We picked up a shop vac for $40 on Black Friday 2 years ago, I think it was. And Daniel thought I was nuts. He's like, what do we need a shop vac for? We hire people to do the work. And I'm like, trust me, they're way better than regular vacuums, because you could suck up anything and like nothing can break a shop vac.
Yeah.
And you could spend $200 on a good vacuum and like get too much hair stuck in it and it'll blow up the motor.
Yep.
So like, no, let's spend the $40 and get a shop vac. best 40 bucks we ever spent. And I think, and then normally they're, you know, they're over $100. They're fairly,
Yeah.
so pick one of those up for Black Friday. You will not regret it, I promise. And then you can clean your what is it? Sliding glass door track.
So, yeah.
I needed that.
I know. I really want a power washer again, just because that when you're, you know how when you take the vents off of the and you're gonna repaint them, and sometimes that paint is nasty that's on there still.
Yeah.
So with the little power wash, you just everything just peels off great, and then you can repaint nice and clean.
That is nice.
Yeah, the things we learn.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So we're going to talk about today hustle culture. I have some unpopular opinions about hustle culture. So it's anybody who's been in real estate for 5 minutes, I think, knows that hustle culture exists here. And that it's definitely something that gets pushed really hard by what we call the gurus. So when we refer to gurus, we're talking about the people who do the big seminars and, you know, sell a lot of education about real estate investing, and sell coaching and mentoring products, right?
Yes, the bus. They take you on the bus.
Yeah. So one of their favorite things to say, and you can probably see this all over their YouTube pages and everywhere else. One of their favorite things to talk about is that if you have the right hustle in you, that's how you'll be successful in real estate. And like every time I hear this, I roll my eyes so hard that like I'm unsure if I'm going to be able to get them back into normal position.
Yeah, I think it's not about, I personally, I think a lot of the times hustle turns into pretend because you start to pretend to be working because you don't really know how you're hustling is hustling paying off. So you pretend you're kind of like, yeah, I'm hustling, and you're like, but nothing's happening. So I personally think it's just you have to figure out how to work smart for yourself. Yeah.
So I'm really glad that you said that, because my opinion about hustle culture is I think that hustle's a really convenient word that these gurus and, you know, and these big guys in real estate get to use without ever quantifying what the hell hustle is or defining what it actually means. And, you know, so my background, I have a background in how words are used. See, I totally need a nap. I can't even talk. I have a master's degree in rhetoric. And so basically, rhetoric is how you use words. So like when people are real manipulative, think about this. Think about when you've been in an argument with somebody and you're thinking about what words you're going to use because you know that certain words are going to trigger them to get more pissed off. And you know that other words are going to calm the situation. When you do that, which everybody does, you're using rhetoric. So I know that inside and out. And one of the reasons that hustle culture pisses me off is because I believe that they use the term hustle because it's ambiguous. And because it makes it hard for people to really figure out what does that mean? Because what I see most people doing when they say they're hustling is just being busy for the sake of being busy. Yeah. And like spinning their wheels, doing a bunch of shit that isn't necessarily going to actually like progress their business. And conveniently, you know, the people who are talking about how amazing, you know, real estate investing is, and if you just hustle hard enough, you'll make it. They aren't burdened with having to qualify what it is that they mean by hustling. So, yeah. You know, it's real easy for people to get into a space where they're doing a bunch of useless stuff, and maybe it's a lot of hours, and maybe it is really hard work, because you can work really hard and not get anywhere. It's possible to do that if you're
Yeah,
working.
absolutely. Yeah.
And I think that it gives the impression that, you know, because they'll say all the time, well, you know what, if you're just motivated enough and you hustle hard enough, then you'll make it. And that's all they say. And I think that there's a lot of people sitting around going, I'm hustling my ass off and I'm not getting anywhere. I must not be any good. I must be doing something wrong.
Right.
Because just being busy and just working really hard at something doesn't necessarily, like, it needs to be, you need to have a plan. There needs, you know, you need to be hustling around something that actually gives you a return.
Yeah, and a lot of it too, because it causes a lot of burnout as well. When you start to really ask yourself, like, because you don't have a plan, you're just out there hustling, and you start to question yourself and the things that you're doing, then your confidence starts to plummet. The things that, because there might be some things that you are doing perfectly fine, it's just might need to tweak things. So the plan again, so working smart and having a plan and your strategies beforehand and focusing like on maybe just one thing instead of an array of things can make your hustle like real. You're just not out there just kind of, you know, going through the motions on some of these things. It took me a while because I know that because that's what you kind of learn and do. You gotta hustle, and you do. And after a little while though, you start to think like, okay, I'm hustling, but I'm not hustling correct. If you have the foresight to like actually see that you're not doing things correctly, that maybe you should kind of step back and think, okay, some things are working for me, some things are not. So what do I need to do in order for me to get to a place where I'm actually going to get some sort of a return?
Exactly. And I mean, those are things to look really closely at. I would say work harder. When you start seeing a return on certain things, put more focus on those things. If you're like putting a lot of hours and a lot of effort in and you're not getting anywhere, you have to make an assessment at that point, because I guarantee that if you go on YouTube University, what you're going to hear is just hustle harder. Well, on what? What,
Yeah.
hustle harder on what? You know, so that doesn't necessarily make sense. You need to like drill down onto what's working, what's not working. If nothing that you're doing is working, then you have to assess why. Were you given some of the wrong directions in the first place? So I have seen people who teach wholesaling, and what they teach people to do is to pick a neighborhood and go knock every single door in that neighborhood. That, in my opinion, is an epic waste of everybody's time. Nobody in that neighborhood wants you knocking on their door because they are not interested in selling. If they don't have some reason to sell, you're wasting your time. I mean, are you busy? You could be busy for a long time doing that.
Yeah.
Knock every door until you get an answer from every single person. Why in the hell would you waste that time? That's not a good use of your time, nor are you going to get a very good return. I mean, is it a volume business? 100% it's a volume business, but you also need to look at odds. What are the odds that you decide to go knock a neighborhood and say you hit 300 houses in that neighborhood? How many people are going to answer? How many people want to talk to you? How many people do you think are in a position where they were just thinking about selling and you happen to knock on the door at the right time? There needs to be some reason behind what you're doing. You know, and things like market cycles and all, there's like all kinds of metrics that come into play. In the Phoenix market right now, we're like super low inventory, and we are selling houses still like hotcakes. Anything that goes on the market, if it's priced, you know, correctly or in the window of correctly, and it's halfway decent, it's getting purchased. And so why in the world would anybody who was thinking about selling in this particular market go, oh, hi, wholesaler who's brand new, who just knocked on my door out of the clear blue? Sure, I'll sell to you for a discount, when down the street there's a bidding war on a halfway crappy house because there's nothing else available in this, you know, general area.
Yeah.
Why waste your time doing that? You can hustle as hard as you want on that. I guarantee you're not going to get the results that you would like to get. Maybe you'll get a result. I don't know. It's possible. Do you want to waste that time? I don't.
I know. I think it kind of, I guess it does. I guess it does. It's a difference between what each individual person wants to do, right? So I'm thinking maybe a newbie person might want to do that in order to like kind of get over their jitters and that sort of thing. The thing about it is that you're putting yourself in a really weird situation just because those folks are probably not willing to sell. If anything, you're just going to get some really hardcore pushback. Which does that develop your resiliency? Absolutely. But like we've said, having a strategy and a plan behind the things that you really, really want to focus on, that's a lot easier. Then you're not wasting your time. Then you at least know that this particular strategy or this particular type of lead that you're going to knock or mail or call, whatever it is that you're doing, that does maybe provide a return. Because then you can go back at some point if it's not working again, reevaluate. Maybe that's not a strategy you should be using. Maybe you shouldn't be doing that zip code. Maybe it's just not the right things. Summers here kind of slow down a little bit. So, all those little things come into play. So having your plan. And I say that a lot too, because I don't plan sometimes. And I'm just like, why aren't things happening? Because I'm not planning, jackass. Like, it's just one of those things. I think as entrepreneurs, I don't think a lot of us have it. We have it's not that we're disorganized, but there's so many like thought processes that are coming, and you're trying to kind of sort through everything and think about, okay, this is what I'm going to do next, and then this is what I'm going to do next. So plan. The organization, the discipline, and the planning like are super, super important for you to stay focused and to see something that tangible that comes back to you.
Absolutely. All of those things are super important to cultivate. And like, even going into it, like, what is your purpose? What is it that you're trying to get a return on? So Angie made a good point. If you're coming into real estate or wholesaling brand new and you've been told like, okay, one of the things that you need to learn how to do is approach people cold, in order to have a conversation, about if they're willing to sell their property, and then you need to learn to negotiate. If you don't already have those skill sets and you're really, really nervous about talking to people, if your intention is, I just want to talk to as many people as I can until I get over it, okay, then the strategy of knocking a bunch of doors that may not give you a return in terms of getting you a deal, but will give you a return in terms of getting to talk to people cold, and see what that response is like, that may give you, something that you're looking for, that may give you that opportunity, right? Now, you could also argue that working leads that have, a reason behind them why people might want to sell would also give you that same experience. However, if you're really, really jittery, maybe you're afraid that you'll waste a good lead not knowing how to talk to them. I could understand that.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, know what it is that you are looking to do, and what return do you want for what you're putting into it. Make that assessment ahead of time to make some of the things that you're being told as a new person make sense, right? Because just having like a really ambiguous idea, of what some like sales guy on Facebook or YouTube told you, because I see that all the time. And
Yeah.
I frequently see, I belong to a bunch of different groups, Facebook groups that are wholesale oriented. And I see people saying all the time, like, I'm working so hard and I can't get anywhere. And I'll see 15, 20 people just go and tell them like, oh man, you just got to keep grinding. And I'm like, you didn't even ask them what they were doing. How do you know?
Yeah.
What if they're
That's a good
grinding
point.
completely on the wrong thing? Like, you know, like that's not an answer. Uh,
Yeah.
you know, what are you doing that you're working so hard and you're not getting a return? Like, what kind of steps are you taking? Maybe if, you know, if you knew that there was an area where you were doing something that wasn't quite hitting the mark and you could adjust that, you know, you might see some differences. Um, you know, I know that for Angie and I, when we started, we were door knocking, which is like brutal, but teaches you a lot, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, it was hard to keep up the mental stamina to go back to a house over and over and over again when you knew someone was in there and you knew they were in trouble and you also knew that they are ignoring you,
Yeah.
right? And you're leaving information and they're not calling you back. Um, you know, you get to a point where you're like, I don't even want to go to that house anymore. And especially if it's a situation where, like, for Angie and I, we were driving all over town because we didn't have like specific zip codes that we were honing in on. You know, we were responsible for anything in Maricopa County, which is huge. So when we have the possibility to go to maybe a group of new leads that are closer together, and there's this one dude all the way across town that we know is going to be there, sitting in the house watching TV, completely ignoring us, and probably throw away whatever we leave behind that has our contact information on it, we would start going, well, do we even want to go there? Because, like, obviously this person isn't motivated. Now, at some point in time, there's usually some breaking point that people get to where they go, okay, now I really have to do something. Like, either it's close to the end of the line, where they understand at this point they're really going to lose their property and maybe they need to do something, or maybe they've been thinking about it all along and they're finally ready. And every once in a while, when you go show up and leave that last piece of paper or you knock that last time, it happens to coincide with their, you know, their timeline of being ready. Sometimes that happens, but it gets difficult, right? And we've talked a couple times about automation and how that can take away that like mental you know, you're working against this idea that the more times you go somewhere and get ignored, or the more times that you focus on something and you're putting effort into it and you're not getting a return from that particular thing, your brain is like, this doesn't work, let's move on.
So yes. And so there's the way I just want to set an example. So your brain does think like it's not working. I have to, something's wrong. Like I need to fix this. And then how do you fix that? But you have, I think as human nature, we have a tendency to just kind of, and it's a cultural thing. I think this is more America. I feel like the US, or we're just like tenacious and like stubborn and kind of pig-headed. Not that it's a bad thing, 'cause I'm like that. So you just kind of, you do until you like get a result because you want to get a result. It's like for girls, it's like that movie, He's Just Not That Into You. So you're just like consistently, and you're like that weird girl, like that's at the door all the time, and you're not there, nobody's response. So then you're not trying like everything under the sun to like try to get some sort of like a response, like from your little notes to your like, are you using a different envelope? Like now you're like a little thing, you're doing a gift card in the envelope, like all these things. And for the guys, it's like when you're really, really like that girl and you're like trying to just be as cool as can be, like how do I get this person to talk to me, show up at all kind of weirdo hours and kind of stalking down the block. Not that I'm saying that guys are stalking people, but you know what I mean? It's totally like that. It's super demeaning, but you can't get yourself out of that like weird like energy. It's not until I think something just clicks and says, yeah, this person's just really just not gonna call me back. They're not, and when they do, because some do, like Lisa said, if then it feels like that, oh my God, they finally called me back. And then you get kind of like this elated kind of feeling, but then it's like the worst relationship you could have ever had, because people that usually take the longest to call you back are the worst clients ever. So it's like then you're just like in this really volatile relationship for like 2 months or a week, depending when the, property is like either going for sale or you have to stop a sale. Yeah, it's a really weird boyfriend, girlfriend, 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 boyfriend, boyfriend relationship. That's just like as plain as an example as I can get it to you. So you hustling through this horrible relationship is just, you're wasting your time. Then it's like people like us that are like your best friend that are saying like, you gotta stop like calling that person. It's not working. Might want to do something else. Somebody else is interested, not that, not this particular strategy. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. You have to you have to know when your hustle is not providing the return that you want, and you have to know when to either switch to a new strategy or let it go.
Yeah.
And again, you don't get that, doesn't get taught to you in hustle culture, because in hustle culture all you get taught is don't give up, keep grinding. Well, okay, follow up is extremely important. And we have evidence that in a business like ours, it takes between 5 and 12 follow ups before somebody actually has a conversation with you. So, is follow up important? Hell yes. However, do you have to hustle to do follow up? Not necessarily, because you have the choice to automate follow up. And if you automate follow up, now you've taken that like mental frustration out of it for yourself. Because if you're just going to hustle and grind yourself to death, and you're going to do that on every single, lead that you have, just like Angie said at the very beginning, you're going to burn out, you're going to experience frustration, and you're going to start doubting yourself and what it is that you're doing. So, if the whole thing is just hustle, 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 grind, 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 it doesn't matter what your return is. You're supposed to just have endless stamina to do that regardless of what happens. Like, that is not how human brains function.
No.
And I have another thing to say about that is also an unpopular opinion. It is always dudes that are talking about this, always. And they want to sit here and act like they're robots who don't ever have a lack of confidence or a feeling about anything. Well, I'm sorry, I'm going to call bullshit on all y'all. Everybody has feelings. You might want to act like you don't because you're a dude, and that's fine, but you have them. And when they're swirling around in your brain, they're going to affect you. So you can either choose to look at them and figure out how that's affecting your business, or you can go, I don't have any feelings, I'm a robot, I'm just going to keep grinding, and then grind yourself directly into burnout and frustration, and then go, real estate's a scam, this is stupid, I'm not doing this anymore. Because that is typically the trajectory that people go. So yeah, when you're grinding really hard and you're not getting anywhere, and you're frustrated by it, like, start to pay attention to those feelings, because what that's going to do is that's going to lead to more negative feelings. And then you're going to go, well, I don't want to do this today because it's exhausting and I can't get behind it. Or I'm not getting anywhere with this, and maybe I'm doing it wrong. It's time to step back and make an assessment on what's happening. Because there's a ton of different steps and a ton of different ways to do things, and you could tweak and try something else and it might work a lot better. I know for me, I door knocked for too long past my burnout point, and it was not good for me when I kept forcing myself after I was burnt out. Part of the reason that my results weren't as good anymore is because I didn't have the same level of consistency, because I was frustrated and exhausted all the time. I wasn't as well organized, and I wasn't doing the amount of volume that I needed to do because I was burnt out, and I could not be in the car for 5-6 hours every day, knocking doors. And this also coincided, and Angie was in on this as well, with a market change. When we started in, a buyer's market. And that was a very different landscape. And when we were, starting to get seasoned and we were starting to get frustrated with the tactics that we were using, part of it was that we had shifted into a seller's market and we didn't know necessarily enough about that in the beginning. That was not an area where we were well versed just yet. So
Yeah.
we understand that market shifted beneath us and that made a difference in what was happening with our leads. And so now all of a sudden we're maybe talking to the same amount of people, but the people that we would normally, close, say we're talking to 5 people and maybe 2 of those people we would get a contract from. Now all 5 of them are deciding to sell with a real estate agent because they can get more money and they don't have to clean up the house or do anything because the market's so hot and they're able to get the money that they want. Why would they work with us?
A wholesaler. Yeah, absolutely.
Doesn't make sense. But what did we initially do? We thought we were doing something. We blamed ourselves because we came into it already burnt out with a bad perspective. And then we completely missed that there was a market shift that we needed to take into consideration and that tactics needed to change. And you know what? I didn't see none of the gurus going and announcing that was happening because they would just be announcing it to all their competition, right?
Yeah.
So they just very quietly in the background changed their marketing strategy because they knew what was going on. And you know what they continued to tell everybody else? Keep hustling.
So true. I know.
Anyone's benefit but theirs? No,
absolutely not. When you have been in the business for so long, I mean, you can get away with doing that. For some of us that were just starting out or we're in the middle of it, we were still trying to figure things out. It's very disheartening, like, to go through that and know that you were doing really, really well, and all of a sudden all of it just kind of poof, like, there it goes. Like, you're no longer that cool. And that sucks. Literally. Like, people, you want to feel wanted and that you're doing things and that you're accomplishing things. And when things start to kind of go south, yeah, it's time you have to reevaluate things. I think automation, period, is the way to go. So, because I think the more and more you are in front of and that, I don't mean automation like you're going to just knock your bum off at the door, because there's a lot of people at the door. That I think it's more on lines of mailers and emails and kind of using the technology that we have to be able to connect with these folks should, they be in a distressed situation. I think right now it's hard because there's a lot of things that have happened where some of us are used to certain leads and they're hustling foreclosure leads and that sort of, and things are on like halt. We don't really know what's going to happen. I know that the market will probably pick up later on, and we were talking about this offline, but you do start to wonder, like, well, when, and so what am I supposed to do now? Or what kind of leads should I be working? So that is maybe just stop for a minute and kind of step back and look and see, well, what is my skill set right now and where would it be best used at? And what can I focus on?
Yeah, 100%. There are definitely people out there that have a machine, and they're still doing deals, and some of it has to do with the amount of volume that they're able to do, either because of how many boots on the ground that they have or how much marketing budget they have so that they can send a lot of mailers and emails and all of the different ways to get in touch with people. And usually it's a combination, of all of those things. And they're likely utilizing every single lead resource that's available in the area. But, for now, things have slowed down significantly for those whose business model is to work mainly foreclosure leads. And that's just a fact of what is happening in the world right now, because we've got here in Arizona, foreclosures, or the majority of foreclosures, have been suspended. Now, there are some types of foreclosure that are still going on right now that don't fit the guidelines for the suspension. And that's a little bit of a different story. But by and large, foreclosures have stopped or been put on pause for the time being. And so what's interesting to me is that I'm still seeing people out there telling new people there's a ton of opportunity and all you have to do is hustle. There's always opportunity, true. Hustle is required, true. But you have to understand enough about the business to know where to go, to find, leads that are actually interested right now in selling. Because if you think about it, put yourself in these people's shoes. If you were in financial distress, because maybe you lost a job or had reduced hours due to the pandemic that's going on, and maybe things have not fully recovered in your industry or your particular workplace yet, and so you can't get the hours that you need, or you haven't been called back to work, or you're, laid off looking for other employment, you haven't found something yet. If you are in that position, and right now there's a moratorium on foreclosures, and you're not able to pay your mortgage, why would you go, I'm going to sell my property right now, and that's going to put me in a position to figure out where to go. I'm still going to have to pay bills wherever else I go. I might not know where I'm going to end up working. There's a lot of unknowns happening. It makes more sense logically for people to go, you know what, they can't do anything right now if I don't pay my mortgage. I'm in a financial position that I can't pay my mortgage. That buys me time to stay put and figure out what to do until they force me to start paying again. And then at that point, maybe I'll have a plan in place. I can then sell, and maybe I'll know more about what's going on, and then I will go.
Yeah.
That is how most people are thinking about what it is that they're going to do.
Absolutely. I mean, my first thing would be, where am I going to get my next job, and how am I going to put food on the table? Period. Right. Like that's what we do. So yeah, trying to convince somebody to sell their home right now, or think about selling their home like in the next month or so, more than likely is probably not going to happen.
Right.
You can plant the seed, but
that doesn't mean that you can't have productive conversations and make a good impression on someone who might need your services when the time is right. But being that we're talking about hustle culture right now, and another thing that hustle culture, I think consistently and sort of, what's the word that I want to use, unfairly pushes, is that you got to have a shit ton of deals happening all the time or you're not successful. Well, that might not be true for a whole number of reasons. Like, I don't know how many people legitimately have a shit ton of deals going on right now. I'm sure there are a couple. And again, I'm sure that you can attribute that to them having a well-oiled machine that gets them those deals. So it's like looking at the difference between a mom and pop business and a corporation.
Yeah.
So there's that factor to take into consideration. If you're being told that the reason that you're not successful and that you don't have a shit ton of deals is because you're not hustling hard enough, I think there's a lot of other factors going on right now that affect the effectiveness of your hustle.
Yeah.
Right. So you've got to take those things into consideration. The other thing is, you get to define what success is. A lot of these guys that are saying, you need to have X amount of deals a month, I can tell you how they have that many deals a month. They have an entire company. They have an entire department that does nothing but marketing. they have boots on the ground, they are able to purchase lists from multiple sources, and they're working high volume because they have the capital behind their business to work all those different angles. If
Yeah.
you're looking at someone who's got 20, 30 years experience in the game and has a full-on corporation that does wholesaling, and you're watching their YouTube video and you're feeling like you're not doing enough because they're saying if you're not doing 22 deals a month, you're not getting anywhere. I can tell you from experience what it takes to get that many deals a month. You know, I'm not necessarily willing to put out that kind of marketing cost right now to get 22 deals a month if I don't need that many deals, because I have other streams and different ways that I can make my income, but I get to decide that about my business.
Yeah.
And you know, that's another thing that I think is negative about hustle culture is it doesn't give you the opportunity to assess what do you actually need in your business, how do you make that happen effectively, and then how do you scale it up if that's what you want to do. Nobody starts from 0 to 20 deals a month by sheer hustle and tenacity. That's not, you have to have skill and knowledge and money.
And systems. You have to have your systems in place.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I don't think that that cultural ideology necessarily serves anyone well. I understand that for some people it's motivational, but for other people it's what's the word that I want? Because unmotivational sounds stupid. But for some people, really, it is hearing that just kind of makes them feel like there's a barrier to entry.
Right. It's like there's a weird, some folks find it kind of paralyzing. Like, I don't want to, I don't want to do that. I don't want, Henrik does not like, push, door knock, like none of that. Any kind of marketing, no, like it's just no. So the whole hustle thing to him, he's like, absolutely not. No. So I mean, there's just, but he's fine. He's successful. He's owned his own businesses. I mean, in Sweden, here it's like, so it just, I think you just have to figure who you are yourself and the kinds of skills that you have. But again, it's not all it's cracked up to be, basically.
No,
it just isn't. No,
it's really not. And I mean, is there like, do you need components of these things? Of course, like yeah, you do need some motivation to keep going, especially in the beginning, right? Because you don't just start something and 2 days later, bam, I've got a deal that is gonna, make all this money. And wow, that was easy. So yeah, you need some motivation. You do need to be able to grind for a period of time because you're right. You do need to be able to hustle for a period of time, but you also need to know what it is that you're hustling on so that it makes sense, so that you can build something and progress towards something. So it is all things that you need. It is not the entirety of how real estate investing works, which I definitely feel is pushed a lot. And this idea that like these gurus they just hustled harder than everybody else and came out on the top. No, they didn't. No, they didn't.
No.
I'm sorry. That's a story to make it sound exciting. And I get that. Like, you need to get people excited, but there's a lot of other pieces to it. And if you don't know what those pieces are and you don't know how to build those other pieces of the business, then you'll just find yourself frustrated.
Yeah.
So my opinion is you need to go beyond the ideology of hustle and you need to learn what other pieces do I need to be successful.
It just kind of, and you have to, and also, I mean, to take it a step further, I think you have to evaluate the folks that have made it. And although they are telling you or giving everybody has a story, yes, and everybody has started somewhere, but Lisa is right in regards to what they're telling you. There's a lot more to what they're telling you. So do take the time to kind of research and see where, where did this particular real estate investor person come from? What have they done? How did they do it? Ask questions, that sort of, because then you'll start to understand that this stuff does not happen overnight. It does not, it takes years sometimes, very few and far between actually have success right away. I've had these conversations with folks that are either just starting door knocking or have kind of started to dabble in the whole wholesaling thing, because they see some of these other folks that are like, oh my God, they're doing so great and they've done, and how do they get there, or how do they, and I'm thinking, well, they've been in the business for about 30 years. So if you're comparing yourself to somebody that's been into it like a year and a half, or for me 5 years, if that, for somebody that's been in the business for about 30 plus years, are you shitting me? Like, I know Jack at this point compared to that person. So what is my then goal is, okay, so then start to think about, are they hustling? They don't look like they hustle very much because they've already they did at one point, maybe. Like Lisa said, you do have to grind a little bit to build your pipeline, and then they just, they just work to their business and on their business, not in the business. So it's a lot of little things that you have to take into account. If you're really feeling like, oh, I need to hustle, like maybe take a little moment to just kind of see what these people have done in the past. How did they hustle? Was the hustle for them? And see how you can apply it to yourself, because you will run yourself down, and then all of a sudden you're just not going to want to do it anymore.
Yeah. And I think there's something to be said for people who are only interested in following like the really big guys that have been in it forever. You need to follow people that are on a spectrum, because the thing is, you can't go from 0 years experience to 30 years experience overnight, like Angie is saying. It'll take a lot of time to build up to where they are. And, they're not necessarily giving you all of the in-between steps and, showing you all of the small progress that they made and how they did that, because the way that they're doing their business now, 30 years in, is vastly different from the way that they started their business.
Yeah.
You have to progress, and you have to do things differently. So the thing is, when you look at people that are in different areas of their business in terms of where they are on their timeline, you might be able to absorb some of the information that the people a little closer to your timeline are doing, right? Yeah. Because so like, for example, there's a really big investor in the Phoenix area, and his name is Sean Terry, and everybody probably knows who he is. He's he's got a YouTube channel, and he does I think he has a mentorship program or some kind of education program. Yeah. And he does meetups, he does live meetups, and he teaches things. And the thing is that he's been in this business for a really long time. And so he's had all of this time to scale his business, and he has a really large business now, really large. And if you're brand new and you're looking at Sean Terry and you're going, I have to get to where he is, that can be really not only daunting and overwhelming, but unrealistic, because the amount of time that it took for him to build that, he's talking from this experience up here now.
Yeah.
And he's gonna give you some nuggets of good information, but you're not going to be able to jump into performance at that level. If you're just starting out and you're looking at people who are a couple of years ahead of you, what they're saying might make more sense and be more digestible, because they may be working on a level that's closer to what you could start with. I think I remember hearing at a meetup one time that Sean Terry spends well over $25,000 a month in marketing.
That's insane.
To this with a budget of $25,000 a month just for marketing. Nobody brand new does that. No. And nobody brand new probably even understands the power in that. if you've got a budget of 25,000 in marketing, the amount of information that you're able to send out and the frequency and the touches and the branding and all of the, all of the professional things that you would need to pay for to make that marketing work for you, that's next level stuff. Like nobody comes in at the beginning able to do that.
Yeah.
And so the reason that someone at that level can do super high volume deals is because they can reach so many people. If you're coming in on your own trying to do this, how many people are you going to reach if you don't have that budget?
Right. Yeah.
And so you comparing yourself and listening to his videos and he's going, you need to do this and this and this. Maybe some of those things aren't doable for you yet because of the area, that you're in terms of startup, and will that grow? Of course it will. If you stay consistent, but that information might not be pertinent to what it is that you're doing. And if you start feeling like, well, I'm never going to get there, so I might as well not bother, it's because you don't see all of the middle ground that happened in between, and you need to study that part.
Yeah, absolutely. Just take the time. And everybody's a little bit different. So, and there's some females that have done pretty well too. So just, I know we see a lot of the men out there, but there's some ladies out there that have done a ton of work. So you just got to be open to really who is doing it and how did they do it.
Yeah.
Like I said, what was their hustle like? Maybe that's a question to ask.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking at different people and listening to their story, and seeing how they did things, because like everybody did it a little bit different. There's no one way really to do this and
Right.
have success. There's a bunch of different ways to do it that work better, for some people. Like some people, there are people out there who still love door knocking. I'm like, I don't ever want to knock a door again. But if they love it and they're having success with it, then they should continue doing that.
Absolutely. Yep.
If I am burnt out on it and I'm not having success with it, it doesn't make sense for me to force myself to keep doing it because this person's having success with it. So
Right.
You have to look at all of those differences too and go, oh, well, that thing, I feel like that will work for me, but this over here, I don't know if I could do that.
Yeah, no. And I think that's, you have to really, again, ask, what do you want? Like, what is your focus? Again, it takes a little while. You're not going to know, even when you think you know what it is, and you start to do it, and all of a sudden you're thinking, it's probably not what I want. It's okay. You just shift, but you have to be smart enough to again step back from the hustle and like really look at what is it that you don't like, and how do you change it?
Absolutely. So I think the takeaways for today should be, my opinion is hustle culture is really, it's really superficial. So just understand that you're not going to get all the information that you need in order to start from anyone who's pushing that the hustle is the only thing that matters. There's a lot more that you need to know, and that information is out there and it's available. You just have to look in the different places to compile all of it together, right? And then again, like Angie's been saying, assessments, looking at what you're doing and seeing what works and what doesn't work, and tracking those things so that you know what you should continue working on, and maybe what you should drop because it's not giving you a good return.
Yeah.
And just paying attention to the different things, staying consistent with something for a while to see what it yields you, and then looking at it and really saying, okay, is this working or is this not working? And assessing everything and being willing to tweak and shift and adjust until you have something that is working more consistently and giving you the progress that you want to see.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna evaluate some of these folks just to see.
I just, I just get so frustrated, and maybe it's because of the way that my mind works. I'm a real like step by step person. I have an academic background, so for me it's like, give me a book, give me steps, give me homework, and I learn that way. And I just, it irritates me when I get on Facebook and I see some guy standing in front of a Lamborghini going, I hustled and I got a Lamborghini. Get the hell out of here with that. Not real.
Like, is it really yours? Show me the title.
Right? I mean, like,
yeah, I know.
I don't know, that sounds like some magical unicorn shit to me. I hustled and now I have a Lamborghini. Why don't you fill in the rest of the steps between hustle and I bought a Lamborghini, so that people understand that if you really want to be a mentor.
Did you buy it or did you lease it? Just kidding.
Right.
Yeah. No, I know. I know.
It's going to be an unpopular opinion because, this is, people like the flash, of it. And they like the idea that wholesaling is going to give you fast money.
Yes.
And a lot of that, to be honest, in my opinion, is just a big fat illusion.
Yeah, it's not. There's a few and far between where it does happen. Absolutely. Absolutely. But I have to tell you, I think the people that have been doing it the longest and are the quietest are usually the most successful. Because it's interesting just to see. Granted, some people like the flashiness and absolute. If you do, that's great. But I've really, in the last few years, I've learned a lot about. Sometimes it's just best to keep your mouth shut and just kind of, celebrate your successes, but at the same time, there's a time and a place, and it says a lot about the person, because we've talked about integrity. And how you do your work responsibly or your business responsibly. I think it's a lot about folks who just don't really need to say much, but you know that they're doing things, and the things that they're doing are really great. So,
absolutely,
something to keep in mind: hustle versus the guy next door or the girl next door.
Yeah, and you can't, you shouldn't blame yourself if you're in a position where this is the kind of stuff that you've been following and you're like, man, I'm not there yet. If someone gave you the impression that you can go from, 0 to Lamborghini in 6 months wholesaling, I think that there may be an exception or two. Perhaps if you are, for example, in the Bay Area where every deal that you do is a 6-figure deal. I don't know, maybe that's possible. How many people are successfully wholesaling in the Bay Area? I don't think that there's market saturation there of wholesalers. So,
right.
If you're here in Phoenix doing, doing what the rest of us are doing, and you're feeling down on yourself because you've been grinding for 6 months and you don't have a supercar yet, you're listening to the wrong people. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, true. Very true.
So with that, happy reevaluation.
Yeah. Don't hustle too hard. Hustle super hard. Yeah. Hustle smart.
Take a minute to reassess.
Yep.
Get back at it when you have some clarity. And yes, stay consistent, and the accolades will follow, the money will follow, the deals will follow for sure. But there's just a few things that you need to add in there. There's a little bit more that you need to do to make it work, and that's okay, because all you have to do is understand what those things are, and then you're on track.
Yeah. Absolutely. Awesome.
All right.
Thank you. Now I feel like I gotta go do my homework, which is good.
I'm gonna skip homework and take a nap.
Yes, take a nap. That's so great. Ugh. I gotta go see about some stuff, and then I gotta evaluate some other things, and yeah, fun. Fun. It's not, I'm not hustling, I'm just working, so. So that's that.
Yeah, sometimes you need a break from
Yeah, true,
which
yes.
is what I'm doing today.
You should, yeah, absolutely. I'll hustle, I'll take a break in 45 minutes, so it'll be good.
Good deal.
Awesome.
All right,
All right,
well,
guys, thank you.
everyone who's viewing, please catch us on the replay, add any questions or comments. I don't see anything right now that we need to respond to, but we're happy to respond after the fact. And we will see you again, I believe, on Saturday. Topic TBD.
Yeah,
But
we'll figure it out.
We'll pull out a little post and tell you what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, it'll be fun either way.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Bye, guys.